The entire Trump organization indicted, and we're tracking the fallout. There's still an ongoing and open criminal probe, which means other people could potentially be charged. Donald Trump Jr., the Trump Organization executive vice president, is now speaking out. He posted a 13-minute video on Facebook trying to defend the company, but he may have made matters worse.
My father, after almost 50 years of employment, paid for his grandkids' private school in New York City. My dad did that because he's a good guy, takes care of his employees.
My dad did that, Don Jr. admitting Trump paid for Weisselberg's grandkids' school and claiming it's because he's such a good guy. As we've been reporting, the issue here is whether this off-the-books benefits scheme was a tax crime, defrauding basically the government and thus you, other taxpayers, of basically $1.7 million. And that indictment has Trump's signature on the checks. The question is not whether he did it for an allegedly nice reason or not. It's whether he did it and it's a crime. And that's just one piece of the puzzle. 15 counts, including tax fraud, larceny, conspiracy, and obstruction charges, with heat on Weisselberg to talk to prosecutors. In theory, he could face up to a decade or more in prison if convicted. The real term might be less than that if convicted. He also could beat the case. Everyone is wondering if there's any way this individual will talk. We're joined now by someone who was caught up in a similar situation, not accused of wrongdoing, but ensnared in a criminal probe and all of the pressure that comes with that. Former 2016 Trump campaign advisor, Sam Nunberg. Thanks for joining me, Sam.
Thank you, Ari. Nice to see you.
Good to see you. I mentioned the heat because it's not very specific to you, and thus it's not really super relevant or an insult or anything like that. It's the fact that, as I think viewers have come to see, people who work for Trump often end up at least getting a knock at the door to provide testimony or documents. He's one of the most litigated individuals in public life, and he's had a lot of problems with other people getting indicted. With that context in mind, I want your honest assessment, notwithstanding whether you've had any beef with some of these people or what viewers may or may not hope happens. Based on your knowledge, what is the likelihood that Weisselberg would ever, under pressure, cooperate?
Well, I would say probably less than 10%. I think your audience and everyone should understand something. When you have Michael Cohen on, Michael left Trump Organization after Donald went to the White House. If you had other people that have testified against Donald and cooperated, people even at Trump Org, they are not like Alan. Alan was there at the inception of Trump Organization. Alan worked for Donald's father. And then at night, he used to work for Donald. And then eventually, when the Trump Org expanded into Manhattan, Alan was there. Alan, I would say, was the second most powerful person in Trump Org. And I'm telling you, that means he's more powerful than Ivanka when she worked there. He had his hands on the purse strings. He handled the money. And for Donald to trust somebody to handle the money, that person is going to be the most powerful person in the organization. And Ari, let's think about what happens here on this indictment with Cy Vance. If Cy Vance thought that holding something like this, that Alan didn't declare $1.76 million in income, around $1 million in taxes. By the way, on a separate note, you can look at that as larceny. We don't have to get into the tax debate. If he thought that he would hold that and that Alan would then go testify against Donald and give out all these secrets, assuming there were, he's crazy, because what would be left for Alan afterwards? Remember, Alan, I know we're talking about 10 years. He's not going to, I don't believe he would get 10 years for that, at least talking to my attorney, Patrick Brackley. And it's not as if Donald would stop paying him. It's not as if Donald wouldn't take him back after whatever happened here. So the idea that we're looking at something like this, I also said from the very beginning, Roger would never testify against Donald. It would have been very much easier for him had Roger Stone. He didn't do it. Manafort, who knew exactly what Manafort, his plan was when he was cooperating with Mueller? I didn't think he was. This is not something, it's not the same as Michael Cohen. I'm not saying whether Michael was right or wrong, whether he was treated well, whether he should have gone to the White House. What I'm saying is people have to understand this is the person who was there at the founding, and it's not as if he's going to therefore have something waiting for him afterwards after he testifies. What's Alan going to do at 76 years old, 75 years old?
You're saying that there's a lot of sourcing that the theory of the case is there is enough stuff that might hit Trump, but they would need an insider, as is so often the case with enterprises like this, to provide the testimony, and that's why they're putting heat on Weisselberg. If they got farther, it would be based on Weisselberg. And you're saying if that's the theory of the case, 90% chance it's a dead end, only 10% chance it works because you think Weisselberg is ride or die and will do a bid.
Yes. Even at his age, even with the exposure, his kids could possibly have. Look, there's a story that went around the office when Donald was about to do his taxes. There was the actual boardroom on Donald's floor, the boardroom on the 26th floor. You would go down. Alan's office was right there. Alan would be sitting there with Jeff McConney, the comptroller. They would talk to Donald. Jeff would then leave the room, and Alan and Donald would have a discussion. Alan is the only one who could really tell you about the financials of that corporation besides Donald and besides one or two attorneys there that are very high paid. And you're looking at the person who is the second highest
privilege, yeah.
And he's right, and then have attorney-client privilege. And Alan is the highest paid executive who's not a lawyer at Trump Organization, and he gets paid even more than the kids, some of the kids. I would be very surprised, and therefore I think that if Vance and his crackpot team really thought that this was going to do it, it's not there. They may get a pound of flesh, and Alan may be found guilty, but if people think that this is going to come and now Donald Trump's going to be frog marched where Jeffrey Epstein was, I don't see it.
Yeah. No, and look, you're talking about people that you've been around in situations and that's factual related material that I think is interesting and important, which is separate from whether people think this is a fair outcome. And the investigators may be quite angry that they run into so many brick walls, people who will literally do a bid. Sam, I want you to have a great holiday weekend. I did notice the oranges behind you. I have to ask, are they real or is that a display?
No, they're not. They're a display that came with my new apartment in Florida. I made the move, so I'm no longer a New Yorker. So you're in a place. You're in a place. Sometimes they call it like weird flex, but you're in a place where they give you some plastic oranges when you move in. Right, they give you the plastic and the fake one and the real ones too. Sorry, they're growing down the street. But that's going to be some panel you have. By the way,
plenty of oranges in Florida.
Ari, I'm going to be watching that panel on the UFO.
Sam,
so that's a great panel.
A lot of questions of who's out there on the UFOs. Yeah, good guess, we think. Thank you, Sam, as well, for being a good guest.